One day, Luckman said to his son, "Today, I will give you 3 pieces of advice to live a fulfilled life. First, strive to eat the best food in the world. Second, sleep in the finest bed in the world. Third, live in the most magnificent palaces and houses in the world." Luckman's son replied, "Oh father, we are a very poor family. How can I possibly achieve these things?" Luckman answered, "If you eat a little later and a little less, any food you eat will taste like the best food in the world. If you work harder and sleep a little later, wherever you sleep will feel like the finest bed in the world. And if you befriend people and find a place in their hearts, then the best houses in the world will be yours." Obstacle in our path. In ancient times, a king placed a large boulder on a road. He then hid himself and watched to see if anyone would remove the boulder from the path. Some of the wealthiest merchants and courtiers simply walked around the stone or passed by it. Many people loudly blamed the king for not maintaining the roads properly, but none of them did anything to remove the stone. Then, a farmer carrying a load of vegetables arrived at the boulder. As he approached it, he set down his load and tried to move the stone out of the way. After much effort, he finally succeeded. When the farmer went back to pick up his vegetables, he noticed a purse lying on the road where the boulder had been. The purse contained gold coins and a note from the king explaining that the gold was a reward for the person who removed the boulder from the road. Moral of the story: every obstacle we encounter in life gives us an opportunity to improve our situation. While the lazy complain, others create opportunities through kindness, generosity, and a willingness to take action. Sometimes, behind the biggest challenges lie the greatest rewards.
The elephant's rope. A man was passing by an elephant camp and noticed that the elephants were not kept in cages or held by chains. The only thing preventing them from escaping the camp was a small piece of rope tied to one of their legs. When the man stared at the elephants, he was completely puzzled as to why the elephants didn't use their strength to break the rope and escape. They could easily do so, but they made no attempt. Curious and wanting to know the answer, he asked a trainer nearby why the elephants just stood there and never tried to escape. The trainer replied, "When they're very young and much smaller, we use the same rope to tie them, and at that age, it's enough to hold them. As they grow up, they become conditioned and believe that they cannot break free. They believe the rope can still hold them, so they never try to escape." The only reason the elephants didn't break free and escape the camp was that, over time, they accepted the belief that it wasn't possible. Moral of the story asterisk. No matter how much the world tries to hold you back, always continue to believe that you can achieve what you desire. Believing that you can succeed is the most important step in achieving it. The best effort is the effort to change oneself, not others. Most family gatherings and meetings are filled with conversations aimed at changing others. Everyone wants the other person to change. No one thinks about changing themselves. A husband strives to change his wife's thoughts and actions, and a wife works to transform her husband. Both focus on raising and refining their children, and so on. However, the best way to change others is to create change and transformation in one's own thoughts and behaviors. How beautiful is this piece of advice? A scholar once requested that the following words be inscribed on his tombstone. "When I was a child, I wanted to change the world. As I grew older, I realized the world was too vast, so I decided to change my country. In middle age, I resolved to change my city. I found that too large as well. In my old age, I decided to change my family. Now, on the brink of death, I understand that I should have focused on changing myself from the very beginning. Only then could I have perhaps changed others, and
Plato
maybe even..."
and the praise of the ignorant. One day, a man came to the great philosopher Plato and sat with him, engaging in conversation. During their talk, the man said, "Today a certain man spoke very highly of you, saying that Plato is such a noble man and that there has never been anyone like him." When Plato heard this, he bowed his head and became deeply troubled. The man asked, "O wise one, what has upset you so much that you seem so distressed?" Plato replied, "O friend, I am not upset by you. But what greater misfortune could there be than to be praised by an ignorant person and for my actions to please him? I wonder what foolish thing I have done that he found pleasing and praised me for it.
An interesting tale of the prince's marriage, honesty. One day, a prince decided to get married. He consulted with one of the wise men of his city about it. He ordered that all the girls in the city be invited to the prince's banquet. The prince would choose his wife at this celebration. A servant girl in the palace was deeply saddened by this news because she was in love with the prince. However, she decided to attend the banquet so she could at least see the prince up close once. On the day of the celebration, everyone gathered in the palace hall. The prince gave each girl a seed and said, "Whoever cultivates the most beautiful flower and brings it to me will be my future wife." 6 months passed, and although the servant girl consulted with the gardeners and took great care of the seed, no flower grew in her pot. On the appointed day, all the girls in the city arrived at the palace with beautiful, colorful flowers in their pots. After examining the pots, the prince announced that the servant girl would be his wife. Everyone protested, saying the prince had chosen someone whose pot had no flower. The prince said, "This girl has cultivated a flower that makes her worthy of being my wife, the flower of honesty. All the seeds I gave you were sterile, and it was impossible for any flower to grow from them.